Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? It's your hostess with the mostest. It's PKR, Pastor Keenan Riley, and we are back with another episode of People Suck, Love Them Anyways, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. Nope, that's whose line is it anyways?
Great show.
Great show. It is a great show, man, and I grew up on that. It was a good show.
I mean, this podcast is basically that show. I mean, we don't plan anything; it's all improv.
Yeah, for real, that is true. Like we plan absolutely nothing. We literally sit down with a clean slate every time, and we're just like, hey, we will go where the show takes us. And I feel like for the most part, over the last couple of years, it's worked out pretty good.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we may end up each episode with a hoedown, you know.
Yeah.
We'll end each episode.
Yeah. So we, I feel like, man, I don't know. I mean, without getting too preachy, without getting too Christian-y to start with, man, I just feel like that a plan a lot of times can just not really accommodate what the Spirit has in store, and
or whatever random BS we saw to spit out.
Yeah, somehow the Spirit always takes what is meant for bad and works it to good. So
Amen,
but thank you guys for tuning in, for being a part of this, for hitting the download button, and for getting it into different countries and different states. We are very appreciative of it, and again, we enjoy doing this week after week, moment after moment, and hopefully changing a life here and there along the way. Because if we're not, we should just go home and
Amen.
Go
home and eat lunch.
Go home and eat lunch at that moment. So, but we pray that you had a good week, and pray that everything's been good over on your end of things. And today we talked about the topic scared of your story. Scared of your story, and we really hit on some high notes as far as or some high points, I guess I should say, of Christians being scared to talk about who they were before they met Jesus, and
which is why we will not be having an episode today.
Because neither one of us are going to be able to chit chat. But no, man, we a lot of times we get to talking about meeting Jesus or having that relationship with Jesus, or when we met Jesus, and that is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to talk about. But we hardly ever hear people talking about the life that they were living up until the point that they met Jesus. And I feel, as I told the congregation today, I feel like we do a great injustice to God's grace if we do not tell people about who we were before. I've said it many times, people will never know how good God is until they know how bad you've been. I think that is very true. But we oftentimes leave out a lot of detail of bad choices or the dark days. And maybe it's because we feel embarrassed, or maybe it's because we feel scared to, or maybe we feel like people are going to judge us or whatever. But I asked the congregation today, Nick, I said, how many people thought what you were doing at the time you were doing, and how many people thought it was stupid? And how many people said, yeah, man, we were enjoying it while we were doing it, and we thought it was a good idea while we were doing it. But 5-10 years down the road, you look back and you're like, yeah, that's pretty stupid. That was a really dark day.
Sometimes it's like right after you.
Yeah, it's like 10 minutes, and you're just like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. And so I don't know if we're. I mean, scared was really, I think, what went with the topic today. I think we are scared, but I think the basis of why we're scared needs to kind of be looked at and examined. Why do you think maybe we would be scared to share our testimony or to share some stuff?
I mean, I think it's it can be a different depending on the person. I used to, when I worked at Silverleaf, we talk about, like, for example, why would a man fear disclosing being assaulted or something along those lines? Why would they hold it in, not talk about it? A lot of it
like
came
sexually?
down to sexually,
okay.
physically,
yeah,
even either one, or even verbally in a lot of cases. Go ahead.
I will say this: I don't think people would have. I don't think men, and maybe this is just me, would have near as much problem with talking about maybe physical or verbal versus sexual. It's like there's. As soon as you say sexual assault, it's like a negative connotation comes with that. As soon as you say it, but
like
with physical
weakness, vulnerability,
right. But with physical and verbal, it's kind of like, well, we deal with that on the daily, So it's something that that may have a negative connotation to it, and so maybe that's why people aren't so quick to
Yeah.
come forward with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was rolling at. Thanks for giving my point. But I don't know,
No problem.
but it's like society. Here's his little. There went. Yeah, he put his little cover back on his
I did
microphone.
put
I
my
knew it was
yeah.
gonna happen. But I think it's interesting because like we as men, as a guy who struggled with mental issues and things, talking about depression, talking about anxiety, how it was difficult because I think a lot of people we struggle with the idea of talking about it because in society standards, men are deemed, the stronger sex, the people who are supposed to be strong and protective and not deal with things and face problems head on and fight things and, and have this strength. And so society standards says, if you talk about mental illness, if you talk about abuse, if you talk about this or that, then you're no longer strong, you're weak, you're less than, and it's not true, but it's like it's like a cloud over your head. You feel like if I say this, then people are going to say this about me. So ultimately, I think where Keenan was starting with, why do we not talk about what we deal with? Why do we not talk about what we've been through? I think it's honestly just fear of what other people are going to say. Now,
Yeah.
I think there's that internal thing of because oftentimes when we think, our anxiety makes problems bigger than they are. We think that if I confess to a drug addiction, then everybody's going to lose their minds, right? It's like I used to be a drug addict 15 years ago, and then I'm no longer. If I in my position as youth pastor was to say that I struggle with drug addiction, it's like that anxiety is telling you, well, if you say that, then nobody's going to trust you with your kids anymore. People are going to talk bad about you. People are going to whisper about you. People are going to think about you. People are going to gossip about you. And it's that unfortunate consequence that comes alongside, confessing something.
Yeah.
But again, our anxiety makes things bigger than it actually is. Our anxiety says everybody's going to talk about you. Everybody's, you're going to be cut down. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. But it's not often the case 100% of the time. Typically when you say something, your anxiety makes it bigger and worse than it actually turns out to be. I think a lot of us can attest to a time when we thought we were going to do something and where we were going to say something, we were going to do something. We thought, this big monumental thing was going to happen. Everybody's going to be mad at us. Like say, for example, when you were a kid, and you do something wrong and you go to tell your parents about it. You're like, oh, I don't want to tell my parents. They're going to hit me. They're going to, they're going to yell at me. They're going to take something away. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. But oftentimes when we actually finally confess to our parents what we did or what we're dealing with, that punishment wasn't nearly as severe as we thought it was going to be.
Right.
And I think that's the mentality we need to shift back to, is understanding that, when we confess what we actually dealt with, when we talk about who we used to be, we're not going to actually see some giant monumental hate thrown down on us, and my hope is that, in a church setting, especially, as Christians, we have enough mercy and grace and forgiveness to know that you are no longer that person.
We don't.
Yeah, we don't. Again, the whole title of the podcast is "People Suck."
Most
we
churches
don't. Yeah, most churches don't. Most people will hold that over your head. Most people will gossip about you, and
like
and
if
that's
we're just keeping it real.
Yeah, exactly. If we're keeping it real, people suck. That's the name of the podcast. It's what we talk about a lot. But it doesn't mean that they're. We talk about this a lot too. Other people's reaction shouldn't determine our obedience. We should be able to confess and talk and deal and vent, without the fear or condemnation of other people. At the end of the day, Jesus is our judge. God is our only true judge. What these other people out here, people I know, people in my family, people in my friends, what they say does not truly matter, does not truly hold a grasp on my life. But unfortunately, that voice is loud. That fear is loud, and we don't want to be cast out. We don't want to be chastised. We don't want to be left down or left backwards or whatever you want to say it. We want to make sure, we always want to keep this clean, well written, well presented, ideology of ourselves to people. That's what we want to present. We want people to think that we've never dealt with anything. We want people to think we never fought anything. It's like, we spend so long fighting it that it's hard for us to face it again. It's hard for us to bring it back up, to talk about it again, because it's like it was such a hard battle. It was such a long battle to get rid of it, to fight it, to go away with it. And it's like we don't want to think about it anymore. We don't want to talk about it anymore, because then it just brings all those feelings and emotions back up again.
I feel like and as I was listening to you say that, like I feel like honestly that we need to get over ourselves, in the certain aspect of like where you were talking about with if we admit to something or if we bring something to the forefront, that we're going to be like that, it's going to be world changing. I'm talking world stage changing. And I think we need to get over ourselves in that aspect of thinking that we're literally like that meaningful to everybody out there. And I don't mean like I'm not trying to demean people or trying to say you're not important or anything like that, but I think it would. I think we're in Hodgenville, Kentucky. Um, we are not on, even though we are in different countries and we're in different states of the United States, even though we have platforms like Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and things like that. I want us to understand something as well is that if we go out and say, "Hey, I used to struggle with drug addiction, and but Jesus set me free," I want us to kind of understand that it's not going to be something where people are going to wake up tomorrow and be like, well, there was a pastor in Hodgenville, Kentucky, who just came to the forefront and said that he used to be a
Mm-hmm.
drug. I think in the respect of how we position ourselves and how we view ourselves sometimes, I feel like we think that like that our life is like the 13 news at night, like
Mm-hmm.
channel 13 news. It's like everybody's tuning in to see what you're doing.
Yeah, we're not P Diddy.
We're not. Yeah, there's your P Diddy
There, I know.
joke.
I
You
said I
were
was going to
looking
work it
for a
in.
way
I was looking
in, and
for it.
there it
There it
is.
was.
But yeah, I mean, for us to like you were where you were going back with the with our I think you said, what was it, our anxiety, or what was it that caused us to make to blow it out of
Yeah,
proportion,
our
basically
anxiety. Yeah,
our
our anxiety makes our
anxiety.
problems bigger than they
Yeah,
actually are.
I think to go back to that, I think that's so true. I think it's anxiety, but I also think it is just a fact of that we think that that everybody is watching our
Mm-hmm.
life, and I mean I'll be 1,000%. I think there are some people out there watching your life for the right reasons. I think a lot of people are watching your life for the wrong reasons. But I don't think it's the fact of that everybody in the world is tuning in to see your failures
Mm-hmm.
or to see your successes.
Unless they're just trying to feel better about
This
themselves.
is true, and that's a whole different
Mm-hmm.
lens of problems that we need to talk about, I guess, at a certain point. It may not be on this episode, but I just think we have to get over ourselves in the fact of that. Whenever we're coming forward to admit something or to say that we battled or to bring our story forward, that our testimony didn't start when we met Jesus. Our testimony started when we had life.
Mm-hmm.
But our we came to life whenever we met Jesus. But we also have to understand that again that what we're admitting to is not something that is going to be world changing.
Mm-hmm.
Like banks aren't shutting down, situations like that. Like you're not affecting the economy. It's not world changing what you're admitting to, but it could change somebody's world, one person, or it
Mm-hmm.
could maybe change 5 people or 10, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I just want us to understand that whenever we admit to or talk about our past or our problems or situations or whatever, that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter what other people think. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter what other people judge or post or say or whatever the case is. You're giving a testimony or you're giving a backstory to who you used to be, to the stuff that you used to do, to the stuff that you used to be involved in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not like a 12-step program. It's not like it's not like an AA meeting where you introduce yourself and you say, "And I am an addict."
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're changed and transformed by Jesus, that's who you used to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's not who you are now. And so, yeah, you used to be an addict, but now I've been set free. But it's still helpful to talk about those things because people need to know. People in your pew, people that are sitting beside of you, people that are friends, that are family. People need to know what exactly God has done in your life.
Mm-hmm.
What has He done? And if we just give this generalization, this kind of brief overview, well, I was a bad person, but God helped me out. I mean, how is that literally telling somebody that might be struggling mightily with drugs, alcohol, might be struggling with a relationship, or might be struggling with their faith, or might be struggling with whatever, that it gives them hope. Well, I was a bad person. Well, I mean, we're all bad people. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we
People
are
suck.
people suck. Like we're all bad people, but let's be specific. Let's be transparent. Let's bring our stuff to the forefront. What has God done in your life that could literally give somebody else hope? That's
Yeah.
the question you need to answer.
And I think sometimes, it's important to tell our testimony, but maybe it's equally important to be careful who we tell our testimony to.
Okay.
In the fact that I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'd say if you're well connected in your church, or your business or
I try to be.
organization or family, you know who you can and can't tell certain things to.
Mm.
You know, like you know
Okay.
who the church gossip is. You know who the workplace, water cooler gossiper is. Who that person you're.
Scutbuttle,
Is that the word for that?
Scuttenbuttle. Yeah,
Scuttle,
it's
yeah,
it's it's Scuttenbuttle or something
something like
like
that. It
that.
sounds
Yeah,
right. I feel like
I've
I've heard
been
that
waiting a
before.
while to use that
Yeah,
word,
good
but go
job.
ahead.
I'm proud of you. But you know who those people are. Now, again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't give your testimony in front of everybody in your church. Because there may be somebody sitting in those pews who, like you, they were afraid of admitting what they're dealing with, and they're still struggling with it. Hearing your testimony in front of everybody will give them the strength to deal with it or to present it or whatever else you want to say. But I do think it's important, to be careful who you confide in sometimes. It's important to be careful who you are transparent and honest with, because
Yeah.
some people will take that and use it. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If they're going to use that against you, that's not your fault. That's their fault. That's on them. They're going to answer for that, not you. You were obedient. You shared your testimony. You did what God has called you to do. That's awesome. That's amazing. What somebody else did with that testimony is 100% on them. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, we put too much weight on other people's opinions. We put too much weight on other people's thoughts and ideas about us. But we need to stop putting so much weight on those thoughts and ideas of other people. To be willing to say that you struggle with something, knowing that Cheryl over here or Bob is going to say something about what you said, and they're gonna talk to other people about it, and they're like, I can't believe he used to do it. I can't believe he works with kids. I can't believe he does this. I can't believe that after everything he's dealt with. That's why it's important, I think, to be careful, but also it's important to be transparent. It is kind of oxymoronic. You say you have to be willing to say. I think I just blew his mind with that word. But I think
No, I just looked
no,
up
okay.
Scuttlebutt.
Oh, you
It's
looked up Scuttlebutt.
Scuttlebutt, not butt. What did I say?
I don't know.
Scuttenbuttle or something like it.
Scuttlebutt.
Yeah, it's actually Scuttlebutt, and it's a slang term for rumor or gossip. The
Hey,
term is
there you
similar to
go.
the concept of a water cooler in an office setting where people gather to chat.
Good job.
So I knew
Proud of
kind of,
you.
I was like 82% right, man.
82%
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I'd say you were about 95% right with that one.
It's close enough.
Yeah, you did pretty good. But again, I think because there's that part of us who's like, I want to be guarded. I want to be careful about who I share my testimony with, because I know if I say something to the wrong person, it's going to get out, it's going to spread, and it's going to cause bigger problems. We've all heard of that. I think it's what they call the telephone game, or something like that, where one person tells somebody something and it goes down the line over and over and over again, and ends up being a completely
We
different
played
story than
that
what
in
you
fourth
started with.
grade.
Right? Yeah, but I think the principle still applies. If you're an
It
adult, or an adult person in church, you may say something as a testimony here, and then they take that out in the community and talk about it, and it becomes this big monster. And
Well, I think here would be a good rule of thumb. If you don't want somebody to tell the wrong story, then tell your story. Man, I feel good about that
Right,
one. Yeah, I feel good about that one, bro.
But I mean, hey,
because well, I was going to say, I think like going back to that game that you were just talking about, whoever is responsible to start out the game, and then whoever is responsible at the end of the game to tell what they were told. You could cut all of that out by the first person going to the last person,
right?
But we don't ever do that, and
get on Facebook and post it yourself,
yeah,
rather than wait for somebody else to post it,
and then tell somebody, and then tell everybody to respect your
that,
business and privacy.
That episode of The Office where I don't know if you like Michael, like there's somebody posts some obscene watermark on the paper. And he's like, we have to tell the media. He's like, was the media asked? He's he's like, we have to get ahead of the story before the story controls us.
I remember that episode. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and but it is true. It's like if you don't want somebody else talk, and people are going to talk about you regardless. But I say, put your story, put your narrative out there, and let people choose to believe what they want to. But if you stay silent on the sidelines and let everybody else make up a situation about you, then yeah, I mean, people's minds are going to be made up. But if you just nip it in the bud, go to the forefront and say, instead of having 28 people blow drug addiction 20 years ago out of proportion, why didn't you just come forward and say, yeah, I used to be a drug addict. I used to do some stuff. I used to think, whatever. And let's just nip it in the bud and go forward with it. I don't know, man. I think people, like I said, are very, very, very tied up with what other people think and the judgment of that. But I also think
we just live in a weird culture. Yeah,
We
like
do.
as I was, I mean, I hate saying it, but like the whole cancel culture mentality.
We do.
Like, I mean, I know there's like 3 or 4 political figures right now in the news for things that they did 20, 25 years ago, things they
Yeah.
said 20, 25 years ago, and it's just like
Well, yeah. I
it's
mean,
tough.
everybody makes bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does stuff wrong. Like nobody's perfect. And yeah, I mean, if I think we feel like that if it was done 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it's in the closet. We'll never talk about it. It'll never come out. And that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not the case at all. And I know like you don't want to get up and try to and try to give a account for everything that happened in your life. I didn't stand up here today on stage and give an account for everything that I've done in my life. But what I did is literally hit some high notes and tell you, hey, I didn't want to be a Christian because, or I didn't want to give in to God because, and I hit some high notes. I didn't want to throw away the life I wanted to live. I didn't want to treat people the way that I didn't want to love everybody. I didn't want to forgive people. I didn't want to be gracious to people. I didn't want to do that stuff like that. No, that wouldn't benefit me. That
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't benefit me. That's not going to further agenda my plan or further. I'm sorry, further promote my agenda along the way. It's like, come on now. I'm not going to give up what I've got planned in order to go chase this purpose that I have on my life that God created. Why would I do that for?
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, there's things, man. There's layers to it. And we're not saying that you have to be forthcoming with stealing bubble gum, when you were 7 from a store. But if you've been through a trial and a situation in your life, if you've held a blade to your wrist and thought about killing yourself, or if you've been in prison, or if you've beat addiction, or if you like those are monumental situations that if God helped you through them and out of them and on the other side of them, that you don't need to cover those up, man. That those are literally just huge acts of grace and mercy and love from God on our lives to literally have a testimony to be able to share with people, and you can draw so much support and inspiration from people's words
Mm-hmm.
because you might be dealing with a similar situation somewhere along the way.
Yeah, no, I think it's just another. I mean, we've been talking about this. I feel like it's been a theme for the past couple of weeks, but like, to me, it's just another side effect of how selfish we are. We're so concerned with the ramifications of what we say on our own life that we don't think about the possible benefits it could have on someone else's life. I'm not going to tell people what I've been through because I don't want people to think bad of me. But we don't think, hey, if I say this about myself, it may help somebody else going through something similar and help them get out of it. And I think it's just another example of how we as Christians, we as humans, are just naturally inherently selfish, and that ends up holding us back. It ends up holding the church back. It ends up holding other people back. It ends up holding ourselves back. And I think we just as a whole need to become more brave, more courageous to face what we've dealt with head on and to really talk about it, to disclose that, to encourage other people to do the same, and also not to condemn others when they do it. We don't want to be condemned when we, confess, when we testify. We don't want people to condemn us, talk bad about us, gossip about us. We need to make sure we're not doing the same for others. When we find out that, Bob is dealing with this in church, we don't need to be telling 67 other people in the church that Bob's dealing with that. We need to be praying for Bob, encouraging Bob, and helping other people like Bob. But again, we as, unfortunately, and as I guarantee you, everybody listening to this knows somebody in their church, somebody in their community, someone in their workplace, a scuttlebutt, who sits there and talks bad every time they find out a little piece of gossip, a little piece of information. They're sharing it and spreading it like wildfire. And you've got to stop that, because all you're doing is trying to you're prostituting someone's story out for your personal gain. And I think that's just and I'm just honest. I'm guilty of doing it. I know Keenan's guilty of doing it. I'm gonna throw you under the bus too. But we've been guilty of doing that kind of stuff.
I've not been guilty of prostituting anything.
Yeah,
in my life.
okay.
So it was. I don't know if I'd ever heard a church Christian episode podcast say "butt" and prostitution in the same episode. So
welcome to People
pray,
Suck.
Yeah,
Love them
pray,
anyway. By fruition.
pray for us, man. For sure. But yeah, I mean, I think, man, to go back just a little bit, and talk about like I feel like today, man, the Spirit really spoke to me about like this whole generation of preaching with you always hear people say, The blessing's on the way, the breakthrough's on the way. It's always on the way, on the way, on the way, on the way, on the
Mm-hmm.
way, but it's never here. It's never right now. And it's like we keep people so far back in their stuff that and telling them that it's on the way, that it's going to come, and then it never comes. And I think, man, um, I think that a lot of the reason why that we have a problem as far as just addressing stuff in our life is that we just paint this picture of being blessed all the time, and like the nice house and the cars and the pearly white teeth and the families and the my kids are doing great and like all of this good stuff, and it's like life and Christianity and relationship with Jesus, man, like if that's all it was, everybody would be doing it. Everybody would be doing
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm too real. Maybe I'm too transparent sometimes. Maybe I discuss life and problems a little more than what other pastors do and things like that. But like, um, to me, a relationship with Jesus is not the absence of troubles. It's the presence of reassurance and a Savior through the
Mm-hmm.
troubles. Um, I preach most of the time with my hair on fire on Sundays because of what I've been through Monday through Saturday. And so if I tell people I never preach a sermon that I don't need to hear myself. And so if I'm standing up here telling you today, like, don't leave your story out. Like, don't leave like certain significant points of your story out. It's like it doesn't change your perspective of who you are in Jesus or through Jesus. People may see you differently, but to hell with people,
Mm-hmm.
like you need them, to function in life and stuff like that. I feel like a little bit maybe with your businesses and stuff, but at the end of the day, like you're going to answer to Jesus, and that's it at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day. And as long as you're secure with that, you're cool. But to be able to speak to life and to be able to speak to what you've been through, is something that we don't need to harbor, that we need to share with people. And for I feel like for us to paint this picture of church is good, life is good, God is good, everything is good. And really, if you look at, we were talking about this before we got on the podcast, but if you look at the numbers of everything that is going on in the world today, you will find out that hardly anything is good. That literally suicide is through the roof, divorce rates are through the roof, addiction is through the roof. I mean, like everything is
Mm-hmm.
like falling apart, and like wheels are falling off, dumpster fires and everything else. But it's like, so how can we be on the other side and be like, what have you gone through? Nothing. I've actually got $4,000 in the bank. The job is going great. Literally, like smoking hot wife or handsome husband. Kids are doing great. Valedictorians, literally like killing it in every sport, playing varsity. They're 4 years old. Like the car hasn't broke down any. Like it is amazing. And then like we put on this smile, and then we go home and we shut the door, and the makeup runs and the fights start, and like the pressure comes, and it's like, why do we have to feel like that we are so, like, I guess maybe put together in front of people, or like that we don't struggle in front of people, or whatever the case is. And then it's like, but then we deal silently, or we deal behind closed doors with the actual topics or the actual storms or whatever that we've got going on in life. And we deal with it in silence,
Mm-hmm.
and so I guess maybe I have a hard time understanding that, and really trying to make sense of that.
Yeah, and I think it's really just goes back to what we've been saying, and so we just put so much weight, so much power on the thoughts and ideas and opinions of other people, and that it causes us to push our own problems and things down, and I think, because I don't think, for, I mean, just to be honest, we don't have a lack of ability to complain. I think as human
No, I
beings,
mean,
we
I
definitely
don't.
complain. We complain all the time, 24/7, three sixty
Mm-hmm.
five about this, that, or the other. And if we complain about things, but there's community in complaining. I think it's just sometimes it can be a competition. I've got it worse than you got it, or whatever you want to say. But I think a lot of times we're very open and able to complain about what we're dealing with because other people are going to complain, like, yeah, life sucks right now, right? Yeah, it does suck. The economy sucks. I'm having a hard time. You having a hard time? Yeah, I'm having a hard time too. Everything's going, but it's almost like we're afraid that our testimony is unique.
It is.
Like we,
It should be.
but we're afraid of that fact because it's like I can find community in complaining. I know life sucks. I know my job sucks. Marriage sucks. But whatever else you want to throw out there, someone else can find kind of get together and understand that, feel that. But when I walk up to somebody and be like, I used to struggle with adultery. I used to struggle with gluttony. I used to be 462 pounds and be disgusting and didn't take showers. When we present ourselves in an unfavorable way,
so random.
Right? Hey, it's random. I probably just made somebody cry out there.
That is
I'm sorry
so
if I did.
random. Like what?
Hey,
did you have a problem with somebody like
no.
that one time?
No,
I
a
mean,
few different.
what?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like.
But I really do think it's just because it feels more blunt, it feels more and like I said, unique, and we don't find community in unique. We can't relate to somebody else's unique. We think that we're worse than someone else is. We think that our problems are worse than someone else's problems. We think that it's like this gross, this disgusting feeling we have of of regret of like if I say this, it's like I can complain all day about how I'm underpaid and whatever else, but like when I sit there and complain that I struggle with drug addiction, people are going to look at me weird. They're gonna kind of stay away from me at church. They're not gonna accept things from me anymore. They're not gonna listen to me the same way anymore. But again, I think that's that anxiety just telling us, hey, you're worse off. You're worse. You're worse. You're worse. You're worse. Don't tell anybody. They're gonna think worse of you. Your life's gonna be worse after this. Life is already hard. You don't want to make life any harder. Don't say this. Don't talk about it. Don't talk. Hide it. Keep it. And it becomes this monster that we deal with on a daily basis. And I think what's crazy to me is like I think people, not all people, but a lot of people who struggle with addiction, working in that field and hearing stories and testimonies, they are the best at talking about it. Because they talk about and they're very passionate about talking about how they used to struggle, what they used to feel, those thoughts they used to have, and I think I like Eminem just came. I know this is going to be completely off topic for anybody that listens to this podcast, but he just came out with a song with Jelly Roll about his addiction, and he talks about how he wishes he could have been there for his kids, and he names each one of his kids and talks about a situation that he wishes he hadn't missed because of that drug, and because of what it did to him, and how that pill convinced him it was more important than his daughter, and like all these different thoughts and things that they fight and deal with and struggle with, and that song is so powerful. Even like I didn't struggle with drug addiction, but I can understand his helplessness in that situation. How he felt like he was basically just reliant on this monster in his life that told him this is how things are now, and he lost control. And I think we oftentimes want to feel like we're in control. We want people to think we're in control. We want people to think we're put together and know what's going on. We don't want people to think we don't have control. Mm-hmm. And I think that's I don't exactly know where to go from there. It's a fact. Like it's just like I think we don't want people to know that we're out of control. Because once we're out of control, then it's just like there's something there after that point that we're afraid of.
Well, I think we spend a lot of time like building, whether it's a reputation or like, I mean, let's just be honest. Like situations that come to light really determines who's for you and who's against you and who's with you in good times and bad times and so on and so forth. So, if you bring to light today that you're struggling. And I think the low fruit is the drug addiction or the alcohol or whatever. But it doesn't have to be just that struggle. It could be mental, it could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be financial, it could be spiritual, whatever you're struggling with. I think if it comes to light in terms enough, like where humans consider it big, it's sin to God regardless. But for us, we put different weight and different importance on different sins down here on earth. But I think a lot of times we're afraid that if we voice that it's going to bring more hurt because it's like, not only am I dealing with this, now I've lost friends, and now I've lost acquaintances, and now I've lost my job, and now I've lost this, and but if I keep it hidden and I just try my best to deal with it on the daily, then I can still try to function in this life that I have. And And it's like, if you do that, then hey, here's what's going to happen. I can tell you XYZ what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to end up falling on your face, and it's going to be far worse than what you could ever think or imagine. I promise. But whenever you just come to the light with it, like you just like just get it out there, get it out there into the space of life, just let people know about it. I think at that point, man, it becomes like I think it becomes like a reason to keep moving and to keep going. Like whenever I say, like, you talk about like the 12-step program and the addiction program, and it's like, hi, my name is Keenan and I'm an addict. It's if I say I am, then I'm still putting myself in that situation. But if we're talking about deliverance and we're talking about a relationship with Jesus and we're talking about who we used to be, then we need to be talking about what we were in past tense. I used to be this, but
Mm-hmm.
God saved me. I used to be this, but God worked on me. I used to be this, but God, and so if we look at it like as a reason to just keep moving forward, like, yo, man, like God's done so much, like why won't He continue to do
Mm-hmm.
it? Why won't He continue to do better or to do more, or to do something like that? And so, it's never been a question of if God will. It's been a question of, do I believe He will?
Mm-hmm.
And if I can like move past that and be like, well, God can use this, or God can work through this, or God will get me through this, then at the same point in time, God's going to do it. It's not going to be on my time frame. It's not going to be in the way I thought He would do it, but God will do it. And I think we, as a church, man, I think we've seen it. We talked about it in the last podcast with our candlelight service, how people were transparent and things like that. I had a couple of people come to me today after service and just talk about some problems and stuff. Had one lady come to the altar. I mean, we hadn't even got done, and she was already at the altar talking about some situations she had going in her life. And I just think we need to create that area in that space of transparency. I think that's really where I just want to, like, as a pastor and as a leader, I want people to feel like that they can be transparent
Mm-hmm.
and not be judged, not be forsaken or whatever. But it's like, we're here to listen, we're here to help, we're here to pray, we're here to get you to the right resources, and get you to the right people, if need be, whatever the case is. But like, yeah, I mean, like, I get proud, man, of for when people like come and they're transparent with their problems or their struggles or what they're going through, because it's like you're taking a band-aid off of a cut that's not healed yet. And there's so much, man, and I don't know if there's like any medical behind this whatsoever, any kind of like science. But I can remember like having a cut sometimes as a kid and having a band-aid on it, and my mom and dad would be like, take that now, don't go rub dirt in it, but like take the
Let it
band-aid
air
off.
out.
Let it air out. Like there was like this healing capability almost of just
Mm-hmm.
letting some fresh air get into it and letting, and it's like you're letting it air out and you're not keeping all of that compacted in. And I feel like it's the same way, man, whenever it comes with being just transparent about life and about struggles and about situations or
Mm-hmm.
about who you used to be or whatever, that you're taking that band-aid off and you're like, yeah, I'm letting it air out. Like, and to me, there's such a freedom in that I want to convey to people, and I want people to really embody and to start living from their self. And I'm not saying it has to be a 24/7 gripe, bitch, and complain session,
Mm-hmm.
but what
I
I
want
am,
to bleep that out.
no, it's
Oh,
fine. We've already said butt and prostitution, so I feel
can't
like I
remember
can
first,
throw
I
that
guess.
in there. Yeah, I feel like I can throw that in there as well. But it does, like, I don't want you to feel like it's a 24/7 just gripe session or complaint session, but it is good to
Mm-hmm.
talk about your past and your struggles and what you've been through, because as long as those point back towards the goodness of God and what God has done to change
Mm-hmm.
and transform you, somebody somewhere is going to draw strength and encouragement from that.
Yeah, and as I'm with the kids today, I was talking about of friendships, but I'm gonna give this like a little analogy that I gave them because I was talking about cutting people out of your life that don't need to be in there, right?
I thought you were just gonna say cutting people, and I was like, yeah. I mean, like,
this is what we talked about at youth on Sunday
yeah,
mornings,
carry a blade at all times.
Thou shalt carry the blade, the sword of righteousness.
Life gets crazy
for truth. But yeah, and I think as I was talking to them, I was talking to you. I was like, sometimes we have a hard time cutting people in situations and places out of our lives that are causing damage to us. But if we were to think of like a cancer or something on our arm or something on our body that was causing an infection and it was spreading, and the doctor told us like, hey, if you don't get rid of this, if you don't cut this out, if you don't take this out, it's going to spread and spread until it hurts you more and more and possibly even kills you. We would be like, oh my gosh, yes, doctor, absolutely, take that out, cut it out, do what you got to do, do surgery. I don't want that in my body. I don't want that infecting other places and areas. I was like, but yet we can do that when it comes to our physical body, but we don't do it when it comes to our mental, emotional, spiritual health. If we got something that we're dealing with, we got something we're struggling with, we have a person we're dealing with or struggling with, or whatever else it may be, it is so difficult for us to do the hard work, of going in and cutting it out and exposing it and getting rid of that, cutting it out from inside of us and getting it out of our body and removing it from our lives, or cutting somebody off. Cutting somebody off from our lives. If there may be people in. We talked about this briefly, I think, before we started the podcast. But the importance of setting healthy boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I said it. I said it this way. I said setting healthy boundaries creates healthy relationships and removes toxic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're thinking about internally things that you're dealing with, you need to make sure that you're getting that stuff out to remove that toxic from your life, to remove that thing that Satan is using constantly 24/7 365 to hinder you, to push you down. Once you speak that out, you're giving it life, you're bringing it into the world, and allows God to completely remove it and deal with it. And I think it's important for us to do that, to rip out that thing that we've been dealing with, that thing that's causing us undue harm and causing us, infection or anger or resentment or anxiety or frustration or depression, to surgically remove whatever that is, get it out in the open, talk about it. So that way, and we talk all the time about how, it almost annoys, I know it annoys me, like when people, post an unspoken prayer request, right? And I'm like,
you getting annoyed?
Just I know who'd have thought, who'd have thunk it.
Come on.
But just like unspoken prayer requests, I'm like, tell me what it is that you're struggling with. Tell me what it is you're dealing with. Tell me what it is you need prayer for, so I can come to the feet of God with a very specific prayer. Now, God already knows what you're dealing with. God already knows what you're struggling with. But I do believe that there is power when you are specific. Yeah. When you are, very, when you give a detail about what you're dealing with and detail about what you're struggling with, so that you can come to the throne room of God and we can come with a specific prayer and we can speak against something specific with the power and authority of God. And so, I think it's just important for us to get that out, to rip it out, to do surgery on ourselves, to get these testimonies out and to remove them and to get them out into the world so people can hear about them and see about them. And they as like in the medical world, they remove something out, they may write a medical journal to help somebody else out to get that out of their lives. Yeah. You can get that testimony out, get it out into the world so other people can hear it, other people can learn from it. And other people's lives can be changed as a result of it.
Yeah, the crazy part, whenever you're talking about just cutting people off and things like that, man, that's loud.
That was loud.
That was really
water
loud.
bottle pop.
Yeah. Speaking of cutting,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. But whenever you're talking about things like that, we have to understand that exposing, I feel like exposing what we've been through or what we're going through, will literally expose who is going to be, again, down with us and for us and with us through every situation. And I man, like I really feel like a lot of times we have fake people in our lives because we're fake with our lives.
Yeah.
And we're not really forthcoming about what we're going through or what we're thinking or what we're experiencing. And so we in turn attract fake people. Might be a good Facebook post sometime later this week.
We'll
yeah, right. Like, if you have a bunch of fake people in your life, maybe you should check if you're fake. Like, I mean, like, like minds usually, usually, like, I feel like minds usually attract. And so,
misery loves company.
It does, and I feel like if you have a lot of drama or a lot of like, I would literally go back and look and say, "Are you drama? Like, do
Hmm.
you like
You hear
drama?
that, Taylor Swift? No,
Do
I'm
you,
joking.
yeah, right? Like, do you, yeah, don't speak too loud, man. I got Mahomes, man, playing this evening, so I need him to throw up about 40. I don't need a Taylor distraction at the game or anything like that. So, but yeah, like I feel like that there's such a just a need to be real, and like I think that's something that really that man, I don't know, that just keeps coming back to me like time and time again. Is just the fact of being real, being raw, being real,
Authentic.
authentic. There's a lot of different words.
That's what the source was for.
Yeah, this is true that I still haven't read. But there was this saying that I always grew up hearing: "What you see is what you get." You know, what you see is what you get with them. And I used to hear that and think to myself like, okay, sometimes that's good, I guess, but sometimes
Yeah.
they can be like really bad too,
Yeah,
right?
sometimes that ain't a pretty picture.
It's true, but if what you see is what you get type situation, I feel like there's some validity in that, and I feel like there's some what can I say, simplicity maybe as well, but I truly just feel like, man, that we wouldn't have the negative aura
Drama.
surrounding aura of church surrounding the church if people would just be real. You know what I mean? If we were to come in on a Sunday basis, Wednesday basis, or whatever, and um, we talked about it today a lot about coming in and sitting down and and not being this picturesque group of people that literally that look like that we I mean it sometimes like it's like, are we taking family pictures, like what, like like everybody is just
Only
like,
on Easter.
yeah, right, giving this fake cheesy smile, and it's like, and and they're stiff necked, and it's like, well, okay, how's life is beautiful. It is wonderful. It is I've never been so grounded and centered in my life and
That's
everything.
exactly what you said last Sunday.
And was it?
Yeah. I was
Oh,
like, "How you doing?" Oh, I got outside. I got
I
my feet in the grass. I feel
yeah,
grounded.
yeah,
I was
yeah, with my back against the
yeah,
tree.
yeah,
Yeah. And no, it's not. The tree's on fire. And
yeah.
yeah, and yeah. But it's like I truly feel like that's the reason why a lot of people feel like that they don't fit in churches.
Uh-huh.
And it's not and I mean, I even struggle with this. I tell people this, like, this building that we're in, it's old, it's falling apart, it's moldy, it's and I know people are like, are you in a basement, are you in a cellar somewhere?
Might as well.
Might as well. No, the lighting is poor. But yeah, it's like, so whenever I go into an actual church that is like churchy, I feel kind of out of place sometimes.
Right.
And I'll go in, I'll sit down, I'll be like, what can I do and what can I not do? Like can I wear a hat? Can I not wear a hat? Can I eat in here? Can I not eat in here? What can I do exactly? Can I be loud? Can I not be loud? Can I be real? Can I not be real? How far do I need to go? And it's just like, I just wish that we could come in, sit down, and be real, be transparent. And that was what. So I don't even think we mentioned a scripture today or the basis of what we were talking about. But Paul was literally just giving his testimony before kings and judges. That's what he was doing. He was standing trial for preaching the gospel and going against what belief system there was established at the time by the Jews. And Paul, instead of preaching 37 sermons and reading scripture and talking about this, that, or the other, like, Paul just looked at these people and he said, you know what? I used to kill Christians. I used to persecute Christians. I used to vote against Christians. I tried everything there was to wipe out Christianity. I hated Jesus. I hated what he stood for. That's what Paul said. That's how he started out. And then he said, but one day on the Damascus Road, I saw a light. Jesus changed my life. I caught fire for him. And then I went into every nation that I could, and I preached the gospel, and I told people to change their life through repentance and salvation. And I'm like, man. And so he starts with what he struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
He brought it to climax with the meeting of Jesus, changed his life, and then you see this beautiful picture being painted of Paul spreading the gospel throughout the world. And literally, King Agrippa's response to Paul was, in this short amount of time, you've almost convinced me to be a Christian. You know, like in the short amount of time that he heard Paul speak, Paul was passionate about what he was saying. He literally said, I used to be the worst human being ever, but Jesus. And he's like, man, you almost convinced me to be a Christian. And it's like, I feel like that, I guess to round it all back up for me was that we oftentimes don't share with people about Jesus. Why? We like to use the excuse of, I don't know enough scripture, or I might misquote something, or I might say something wrong. But we should just be telling our testimony. Like, if we've truly met Jesus and he set us free from what we struggle with and been through, our testimony is enough. It's enough. But if we don't leave out,
Yeah, it's like maybe that person in Walmart checkout line doesn't need to know you murdered 7 people.
yeah,
Before, like when
just
you
yeah.
walk,
But I mean, you can't say I was a murderer.
yeah.
You
I've done some
can't
horrible,
say
motivated things.
like I literally, like I have done some really bad things, lady. Like I have killed people. All right.
She may switch lines,
Yeah.
but hey,
She
you
may,
did what you were supposed to do.
did. Well, I mean, that's where it is, man. I truly think that if it's a God moment, that you can be real. You don't have to go into like gnarly details. But I do think that you can be transparent and that you can say like, hey, look, like this is the deal. This is what I used to be, and but God, Jesus changed my life, or whatever the case is. And then you can start, talking about the beauty. I said this, and I'll turn it back over to you. But I said, I asked people today, what is your favorite movie of all time? Like the movie, man.
Okay, Ghostface.
Ghostface?
No, I mean, what's your favorite movie?
Oh, I was like, what are you talking? Like Ghostface?
No.
That's a movie? Yeah. What's your movie, Sydney? Yeah, that was good. But anyways, I was a '90s kid. I said, hey, Predator, Bloodsport, Days of Thunder, Top Gun. It's a wonder I turned out as decent as I did, I guess. But anyways, the question I posed today to people was that how bad would you be if your favorite movie, you hit the play button, or you turned it on TV, and how mad would you be if the movie started at the climax moment where the good guy took over? Like you literally turned it on, and like I just see Tom Cruise flying through the air shooting planes down, and I'm like, okay, he lands, everybody celebrates, movie over. What happened? How did we get to that point? What happened that we had to go into combat? Was he a good pilot? Was he a bad pilot? What are we doing right now? Like there's no story before we get there, and we treat our testimony like that. We literally treat our testimony. Hey man, I met Jesus, got saved, everything's been good. Okay, but
I'm just imagining like Sound of Music, like you just see all the whole family just marching across the Alps, and then that's it. That's all you get.
You're just and you're like
Willy Wonka. You just see Charlie in the little elevator getting the chocolate factory.
And you're like, what happened? How did we get here? What's the point? What happened? And we treat our testimony like that, like it's the truth. Like oh, Pastor Keenan, yeah, man, I got saved when I was 16. Okay, fantastic. What was you doing before?
Dorothy woke up in Kansas.
What was you doing, bro? What happened? How much crap was you going through? Man, I got saved when I was 16, bro. Deuces. Like, I love Jesus. What? Like, it's not even been a cakewalk since I knew Jesus, since I met Jesus. Like, I could still tell you stuff that would, like, literally straighten your hair out if it's curly. Like, it's like, this is not rainbows and butterflies and unicorns and things like that. Like this is real life stuff that we have to be transparent and real about, but we also have to tell the whole story. We also have to tell the whole situation in order to know that God didn't just save you, man, but like God literally changed your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been talking, I think, again over the last few weeks about how important, how powerful your testimony can be. And ultimately, I just want to leave with the idea of, just be, and if you're not somebody, and I was actually having this conversation with somebody after church today, I did not used to be somebody who ever thought, they'd be brave or bold enough to stand on a stage and to tell people about what I've been through or who I was. Or
can't
what
get
I've
you
done.
To shut up now.
Exactly. I know. Look at what God's done. What a
won't
curse.
he do it?
Won't he do it?
Won't he do it?
Absolutely. I just
I asked for 4, he gave me 5.
yeah, get it.
Won't
There
he
you go.
do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna cut that out. But I think it's so important to be open and honest about the testimony that you're going through and where you've been, because people may, as Keaton just said, he's I'm sitting here won't shut up, and like, God, Nick must have always been that way. Nick must have always been talkative and eccentric and depressed. I was always depressed and downtrodden all the time. I am a Eeyore. I've been a Eeyore for a very long
What
time,
does
but I'm working
eccentric
on it.
mean?
I don't know. I look up
I've looked up so
thesaurus.
many
Yeah, I was gonna say
stuff,
look up
so
a
much stuff
thesaurus.
today. Go ahead.
But I think it's important to explain where you came from, what God has done to get you from and we talk all the time about how we are so focused on the victory and on the outcome that we don't ever we see these multi-billion-dollar companies and we're like, man, they must have just got lucky one day. No, they put in work and work and work and work and work. You see fruition in year 8 and you're like, wow, this must have all just
always
popped
been
up.
like
Yeah,
this.
it's all popped up. No. Yeah, exactly. So it's important to share your testimony. It's important to share your story, and not just a part of your story. Sometimes you have to share all of your story. To really hit it home, to really understand that I serve a God who can literally like save, deliver, and set free the worst human being I've ever known, and that was myself. And if he can set me free, if he can put me on a different path, if he can give me a hope and a future and a purpose, then he can do that for you. He can do that for anybody out there that is struggling with anything or who has struggled with anything. And I think that's what's so important about your testimony. That's what's so important about your story, is just being able and willing to do that, so that one day you can sit here and you can just be in tears. No matter what song is played, you can be in tears when Keenan is reading from the Bible. You can be in tears when you're reading the Bible yourself, because you understand how good God really is, how good He has been to you, how patient, how graceful, how merciful He has been to you. And nobody's going to really, sometimes the only way somebody will know that that's possible is if you start that story, if you start that journey, if you start that person on a journey to knowing who Jesus is.
Man, amazing. Anything else?
You figure out what eccentric means?
It literally means. Oh, man, I want to quote it word for word. I just took it off my screen.
Like, I know what it means to say it, but I don't really think I could explain the definition of it.
Unconventional and slightly strange.
There we go.
So yeah, eccentric you are.
Yeah,
eccentric you are.
Try.
So, but yeah, man. So at the end of the day, we just want to tell people, like, literally, man, share your story. Get out there, tell people about what you've been through, what you're going through. And how God has separated you from that. It makes all the difference in the world, and it can literally give somebody hope to face another day or to take another step or even another breath. That's how important it is. So we love you so much. We thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for always in the download button. And until we see you again, or until you hear us again, we love you and be blessed.